This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Infinity Isle for a 1v1 featuring the yellow allied players on the left side. This is DDF. And on the right side, playing as the Cyan Soviets. This is Harlen, a.k.a. Amaranth, which is what I believe he is playing as in this game. And this guy, DDF, shows up as like --3 in game, something like that. If you see his name pop up, it's like a bunch of hyphens and then a number 3 and then some more hyphens. But it's apparently DDF, and also if you look at his name on like a replay displayer, it just shows the Chinese characters that his name actually is. But in game, in my English version of Red Alert 3, it just displays a bunch of hyphens. And it's like a bunch of numbers or a bunch of characters we don't recognize, the number 3, and then some more characters we don't recognize. But anyways, it's an airfield first, allies versus a Soviet player. DDF, a very well-known allied or Soviet player, but he has been playing random quite recently, and this game is a little bit older, and it looks like he is playing allies. He might have been actually drawing random and getting allies randomly, but he's going to be pretty familiar with the Soviet side of this matchup. Although I think in total I've seen more games of DDF playing random at this point than I have seen him play Soviets. It's just the first year and a half that I saw games of DDF, he pretty much always played Soviets. So he is, in my mind, a Soviet player. Although at this point, I do think I've seen more pure games as random than anything else. But in this case, it is going to be an AVS from a player who typically plays Soviets to another player who typically plays Soviets. Harlen, showing up on my radar for the last year or so and almost always putting out good games. One of the players from the Chinese server that I'm always glad when I see their name pop up in a replay, despite the fact that I have called him by the wrong name a number of times. I once called 1212 Harlen for an entire game. I thought he was... I was like, it's Harlen versus Amaranth, which of course just means Harlen versus Harlen. But we'll get besides that. Mass numbers of flak troopers. This is hearkening back to those snowplow games. A couple of AVSs on snowplow, or maybe one was an EVS, but I think they were both AVSs on snowplow. And the opening gambit of the allied player was, of course, quick airfield. But the response to that from the Soviet player was this mass flak trooper style. Yeah, you also get the flak cannon, you pause it at 99%, all of the typical tricks that you're used to seeing, but this mass flak trooper style. Quick third refineries from both players, just as we cross the 3-minute mark, which if you have missed some of the I guess cool tech we've been demoing on the channel recently, the new overlay display, all of the facts and digits are big thanks to Double Evil. And, of course, having the timer in-game is something that is new to Red Alert 3. I'm excited to see if it's something that's actually useful or if it's not useful at all, and we just kind of throw it away eventually. But I want to try it out for a little while. Fast Twin Blade coming in as well for the snipe. I love that Twin Blade snipe of the one Javelin soldier. Like, that was a great little micro battle that we saw between the bear and the Javs. The conscripts coming in, and then, of course, the Vindicator killing the bear, but then the Twin Blade comes in and kills the Javelin soldier. Anyways, it's like all of that micro, all of that little fight, that knife fight decision-making stuff, and really the thing that mattered was the Twin Blade comes in at the last moment and gets the kill anyways. Bears can't kill the Peacekeepers, but they can roar and stop them, giving the Twin Blade an extra moment or two to clear out these Peacekeepers. The Apollo's dancing right on the edge of range there. Vindicator's not here to help clean this up, but the fresh Vindicator does get added into the mix, and the bear won't go down, but the flak troopers do get eliminated. A real intense fight between these players over the smallest numbers of units. More flak troopers do step out onto the field, and these Apollos dodging flak attacks one after the other, and this Vindicator's scared to jump into the sky. If he does, he might get targeted down by those flak troopers, and the flaks on the high ground as well, going to be helping to support this attack. Cryocopter is now here. Airfield might just be sold off after that. Fresh Peacekeeper gets added into the mix. Couple of Dolphins and a hydrofoil on the north side of the map, going for the harassment of the 4th refinery out here on the water. Tesla coil starts up, but it's a little too late. The hydrofoil can shut that down quite nicely without any real trouble at all. A combo of a Twin Blade and a Tesla coil might be necessary to keep that refinery alive. Meanwhile, the airfield will be targeted down. The couple of conscripts sneaking their way onto the low ground as well means that that just goes down slightly quicker than if the flak troopers were alone attacking it, and the refinery on the water goes down. Looks like it may have gotten sold off there, and Harlen says it's high ground or bust for me. Peacekeepers come down to the low ground, clean up some of those conscripts, clean up some of those flak troopers as well, maybe, if they head into that building. Twin Blades going for the harass of the harvesters. These two players not wanting to give really a moment's rest to their opponent, moving on immediately, and Satellite's going to be getting called in on one power plant. The RNG is good enough to clean that up. IFV is going to be getting jumped on. MiGs and Apollos trading out against each other. The IFVs all go down, but the Apollo does escape. Flak Trooper is going to be worried about those Peacekeepers. There's more than enough Peacekeepers to eject out those Flak Troopers, and this power plant will go down, which will send him into low power mode. DDF having some difficulty dealing with all of this Soviet aggression, these sneaky attacks and tactics that Harlen is bringing to the table. DDF is faltering against, but not entirely. Finally, DDF does reclaim that Civ structure. Hydrofoil in a perfect position to transfer, or to get one of those Twin Blades as they try to transfer out of the main base of DDF. It's going to be a war factory, and he's now back online. His power restored to his base defenses, and it's going to be maybe a little bit of a reset, but not entirely, because that Vindicator steps out onto the map looking for a bit of damage, looking for a bit of a kill, and finds nothing. Hydrofoil is going to be targeting down these Twin Blades, and Dolphins taking a little bit of damage there, but ultimately everything escapes that last tussle between these two players. Okay, so anyways, we've been demoing some new tech. Big thanks to Double Evil for making the overlay work and making the timer work as well. I did end up finding the timer address for how the game tracks all of that, but it was in milliseconds, and I sort of did 1% of the work, and then Double Evil took my milliseconds address and turned it into something actually useful, which is the in-game timer that you see there. And it does pause and fast forward correctly with the game, which is quite nice, and that it does just work. It's not like I just start a timer at the start of the replay and then hope that it lines up. It does track along with lag or stutters or anything like that. But big thanks to Double Evil for putting that together. Like I said, I did like 1% of the work, and he did the rest. He took my rough outline of a map of what to do, where to go, so to speak, and he did the actual work of making it a real thing. Terror Drone coming out to clean up these Dolphins. Dolphins do get the kill on the Terror Drone, but trades out one of the Dolphins for it. Twin Blades going to be responding once again to try and keep this refinery online. Pauses the refinery just in time. Harlen has the cash sitting in the bank, but he just wants to deny this kill of the Harvester immediately. You know, you don't want the Harvester to spawn in and immediately take damage from an annoying Dolphin. Meanwhile, in the middle of the map, it is going to be Hammer tanks getting pushed back by these Guardians. Big crowd of infantry here from Harlen. He's going to be able to push DDF back. He is going to be able to deny DDF from the attack. Terror Drone does get the infect of that hydrofoil. Finally, this allied naval harassment force of DDF has been dealt with. It has been a long time that DDF has been just doing little bits of damage and pressure with that allied force, and finally, Harlen is able to deal with it. These two players coming up against each other, blow for blow, hit for hit, 46K in the bank in total for both of them. They are so neck and neck on the economy front. 3 refineries, 4 refineries, plus the oil derrick for each player. This is not a case of one player being extremely efficient and outstripping the other one. They are neck and neck in terms of economy. And of course, you know, Soviets and allies do play differently, but at least their base economy has been staying consistent between the two. And in this case, you know, a Tesla coil is a bit of an expensive insurance policy, but it is a pretty solid one as it knocks down that Riptide, and the Terror Drone doesn't have to get in close to try and go for the kill. Satellites once again going to be getting called down on top of that power plant. We'll do maybe a little bit of splash damage to that oil derrick, but nothing too much to worry about. The race for Tier 3 is, I feel like, the next piece of this puzzle. Is that Tier 3 finishing up right there? It is indeed. DDF finally unlocking the last pieces that he needs. Namely, the Athena cannon. Nice scout by that conscript coming forward there from Harlen to get a little bit of vision for him over that army. I was half expecting toxins to be dropped after that to try and clear out that big infantry army that DDF has built up. But once the Athena cannons start coming out onto the map, and I have to assume that's one right there, things are going to be getting more and more difficult for Harlen. Every moment that goes by that the Athena cannons have to build up their numbers to potentially grow in number and be able to snipe those units just makes it better for the Allied player and worse for the Soviet player. I love the Terror Drone harassment out there on the water. You're going to harass me. I'm going to harass you. The oil derrick on the DDF side of the map didn't actually go down, but it did take a nice bit of damage, and I have to assume Harlen is going to swing back through when he has a minute to breathe, and he's going to finish off that oil derrick. Maybe give him a little bit of an economic edge, but of course we're already 10 minutes into the game, and he's not going to be finding that economic edge to be useful for a little while. Only one Athena cannon. The follow-up was a Mirage tank to that. 2 cryocopters are here. Freeze Ray only catches a couple of conscripts there as that cryo shot rains down, but is mostly dodged by Harlen. Flak cannon on the way. The Crusher Crane is somewhere, and there is going to be the Kirov as well. As the fight starts, the Bears get a good roar. Most of the Javelin soldiers not able to take part in this fight. Guardian tanks push forward, but get pushed back by Harlen, and all of the infantry hordes just get sliced and diced, rolled over, and cut down by Harlen. DDF is not going to have much of an army if the fights keep going like that one. But it's now Guardian tanks and Mirages versus this Harlen army. Conscripts go down in huge numbers. Kirov comes forward. The bombs don't connect. The Guardians rush past that front line, and it's going to be up to the V4s and the Hammers to try and keep this army alive. But there's only 3 Hammers left on the north side of the observation post, and the last Mirage goes down, but the reinforcements come in. 2 fresh Mirages are here. The cryocopters have hardly done anything in this battle. Fairly rarely do you see a cryocopter sit idle in a battle, but it's here that DDF does not use those cryos and pays the price. Nearly his entire army going down. This Kirov needs to run and gun for these buildings. He needs to close this distance and get on top of these power plants, go for the airfield to deny any more cryocopters from being produced. The oil derrick has been healed up to full, and this Kirov is wasting precious seconds with every moment that goes by. Twin Blade going for the harass, and the Kirov will go down. The power plant will be eliminated as well, and the MCV will have to try and repair that airfield, but nothing actually happens with it. So bye-bye airfield. Airfield gets cleaned up. Trades back for a Harvester. Okay, get as much damage as you can if you're Harlen, and DDF's entire army pretty much gets cut down there. I can't believe he only went for 1 Athena cannon. It seems like going for 2 or 3 would have been the better play, but if he didn't know those Kirovs were coming, he did a pretty good job of avoiding them. I'm not sure how familiar DDF is with that Soviet playbook. If you mix the Kirovs into the late-game army, it's almost, instead of trying to rely on V4s, You get maybe 1 or 2 V4s, but you get the Kirovs as well. And that does such a good job to anchor your army and to hold your position in those middle bridge fights. You know, here on Infinity Isle, on Snowplow as well, you've got that center land attack path that a lot of the map hinges around. You can play around the edges with the water, but the middle of the map is where you want to be with that big ground army. Naval Yard gets added on for DDF. It is very far away, so I don't know that he actually got it up to Tier 3. Maybe he just went, maybe he goes Tier 2, but no, not even that. I have to imagine that he's in the back of his mind thinking that aircraft carriers might be the way to go. Dreadnought does get frozen, does get locked down basically immediately. Doesn't get very much work done before that Dreadnought is out of commission. Dolphin? Yeah, okay. 1 Dolphin is coming in. Hydrofoil did get caught by that cryo shot, and the Dolphin gets the kill on the 2 things that matter. And for now, the cryocopters do escape. Those MiGs do escape as well, but the Twin Blades pay the price a little bit more. Athena Cannon is now out. V4s trying to trade back, and the V4s do actually get a kill on 1 Athena Cannon. Might get the second one on exit. No, the RNG of where the rocket heads land doesn't quite line up. Those last couple of shots nearly did save those V4s from embarrassment, but no, the Athena Cannon survives. That is one of the downsides. Sometimes you get really, really lucky with those V4 rocket splits where everything lands. I'm not sure what the decision factor is as far as how those rockets get broken up. But sometimes it is quite a deadly shot, and sometimes it is just a giant miss as sort of everything goes wide of what you want. Cryocopter heads down to the south side. Hydrofoils there as well, but the Akula sub is moving in. Harlen looking to try and stop this expansion, but also I have to assume he's worried that aircraft carriers are going to be headed his way sooner or later. Dreadnoughts, if they are left alone, they can do that big damage to buildings, but, ooh, that was a bit of a mistake. Harlen trades out basically 3 MiGs for nothing. Another Dreadnought does step out onto the map. The Cryocopters don't get the kill. They don't get the freeze on the Dreadnought, but they do break down some of this frontline defense. Terror Drone is a nice addition, and the Dolphins do laugh as they dodge those rockets easily. The Dreadnought needs to put out damage onto that refinery. Above all else, Cryocopters get the insta-freeze, and the Dolphins are just going to run past those Akula subs and go for the kill. Goodbye, V-Dreadnought, as the Athena Cannon gets picked off by 1 of those Twin Blades. A 3 Twin Blade hit squad is apparently the good combination to kill off those Athenas quickly. You rush in with the rockets, hope all of your shots land, and go for the cleanup. I think more satellites crashing in. This oil derrick is still alive. I cannot believe DDF has kept that oil derrick alive for so long. And it feels like DDF has a good enough number of cryocopters that he could be doing a lot more out on this map. He could be going for harassment around the edges, trying to snipe some infrastructure, but he has been using them very conservatively, mostly at home, mostly defensively. And I mean, as we saw in that earlier fight, he is not super active with them in the battles either. Both players climbing over 100K total resources gathered. They've been sitting on these 4 or 5 refineries plus the oil derrick for a long time now. Harlen climbing down to that water expansion for his 5th. DDF not quite finding that, and both players doing a bit of harvester harassment, but this has mostly been a bit of a slower paced game. You know, we've seen some other matches that have been almost entirely harassment for the entirety of the game, and this is much more like bigger late-game armies. Lots of cryocopters coming in to do their freeze. The Riptide goes down. The Riptide gets eliminated. Second Riptide is coming in to go for the kill, and both of the flak cannons do actually get sold off there. Meanwhile, oh, this is 1 Kirov. 1 Kirov crosses the threshold and goes for the invasion. On top of that, the boot camp does get toxin dropped and will be denied any production. There could have been a whole crowd of infantry that goes down as well. The Kirov goes golden as these IFVs show up. DDF barely gets himself back online in terms of power, and then he's immediately offline again as he does have that low power mode to deal with. And Harlen finds some ways to pick DDF apart piece by piece, bit by bit. He's finding the damage that might give him the edge to just push forward and win the game. And actually, it looks like this ground army has been building up for a good amount of time, but DDF has been defeated. Harlen will take the game, and it feels like Harlen was, you know, in an even match with DDF for most of that game, back and forth, but then somewhere near the end, DDF just got outstripped by Harlen. And I mean, part of that might have been income, but it kind of felt like they were tracking pretty evenly, and I guess at some point DDF just wasn't able to keep up with Harlen's production, and it kind of fell apart there for DDF. So a good game from Harlen, but kind of a weird one from DDF. Not the DDF performance that we're used to seeing, but a very solid match from both players. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Big thanks to Double Evil for the overlay, and that will do it. This is Sybert signing out.